Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Sunday Afternoon Smokes, your casual conversation podcast from the upstate of South Carolina. My name is Chris. I am your host. I'm also the owner and operator of the Cigar Box, a mobile cigar bar that serves the upstate and beyond. I'm also a realtor, and most conversations are enjoyed over a cigar while I interview the local entrepreneurs, business professionals, and entertainers that make the upstate one of the most popular places to live in the country. So I hope you get to sit back, light a cigar, and enjoy the show. Today, I have the honor to sit down with Luke Rankin. Luke is involved in quite a number of things, but by now, you know, I like to let my guests introduce themselves. That way I don't steal any of their thunder. So Luke, please take a moment to introduce yourself. Say as much or as little about yourself as you'd like.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for, first of all, having me on the podcast, reaching out to me to join you on for this. Honored to be here this morning. So, Luke Rankin. I am a health insurance advisor, started my own business, and work with small business owners, families, individuals, large employers with their health insurance. And then also I am involved very much politically and represent Lawrence County, House District 14 in Columbia in the State House of Representatives. And enjoy that very much. Love my community. Love that opportunity to serve. And also married to my beautiful wife, Hope. And we have our first baby girl on the way here in April.
Oh, congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you so much. We can't wait. My wife and I have been very busy getting the nursery put together. We actually just put a fresh coat of paint in the room last weekend and put the crib together. And so things are really coming together for that.
So first baby, and you opted to find out the sex instead of let it be a surprise.
Absolutely.
You know, everybody's a little, well, I say everybody's different. There's really only two choices there, right? I mean, it's either find it out or let it be a surprise. So was it just like, we just want to be prepared? Or what's the...
Well, you know, both my wife and I are planners, and we like to know as much as we can so we can be well prepared for when the situation comes up. So that finding out the gender was a no-brainer for us. We were very excited to do that, but we did talk about it. You know, we're probably thinking for future kids, you know, we might want a surprise there at some point, but for the first, we definitely wanted to know.
Nice. You got a name picked out and all that?
We have a name picked out. I'll be honest, we have not even told our family what that name is yet.
We don't want to blast it out on a podcast.
Well, you know, I've seen a lot of families, people get kind of uptight about names, and we just didn't really want to deal with that. Sure. We you know, once the baby comes out, it's got a name, and everyone's going to love it.
I don't know why people get uptight about it. I mean, it's not your kid.
Everyone has an opinion. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I mean, it's my kid. I get to name it whatever I want.
That's right.
You know, that's just the rules. Just like, you got to pick Luke for me. What if I don't like that? You know, but that's just how it goes, man. All right, cool. So I'm not gonna press you for a name on the baby, but anyway, congratulations. That's awesome. Are you looking for a big family? What's your, just, we're gonna let the board decide how this goes, or?
Yes and no. So kind of interesting. I came from a family of 9, very big family, and you know, oddly enough, my wife came from a family of 9 as well. So that was actually one of those very interesting things that happened right when we started getting to know each other, when we started dating, finding out that we were both from families of 9. We both had a lot in common. And so naturally...
That's a lot of in-laws, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. Makes Christmas very expensive.
Sure.
But, you know, naturally, you know, people look at 2 people that come from big families and they expect us to have a big family too. You know, I'll be honest. I've kind of been more along the lines of, 4 or 5, and, you know, she's kind of like that number 2. And so, you know, we'd like to have 4 or 5 if the Lord lets us have it. But at the same time, you know, we'll see what he does.
Well, even by modern metrics, that's still sizable.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like, as you probably know, just the reproduction rate here in America amongst Americans is too low.
It's way too low.
I mean, you have to have at least like 2 children per household.
It's
right. Like 2.2, I think.
Yeah. I think it might even be less than that. I'm pretty sure it's 1.8.
We're not even having 2.
We're not. And, you know, one thing that we've talked about a lot is in the book of Genesis, God tells Adam and Eve to go forth and multiply. And so multiplication is not one kid.
Yeah.
And so we're not even replacing ourselves at this point in our society. And
I mean, at minimum, that'd be 4.
That's right. That's kind of where we came up to 4 or 5. And, we're not starting out as quite as young as our parents did. So, we'll have to get busy. But, we look at the numbers of how many people are having kids in today's society. You just alluded to the number. I feel like a lot of that is because we as a society have become more materialistic. And so if I look at having another kid, if I have one kid and I'm looking at having another one, well, that is now, they're more looked at as a burden, right? And so we're not maybe going to get that lake house or that boat that we want. And so we start looking at kids as burdens when they should be looked at as blessings. And, when we sacrifice to have kids, I think God honors that, God blesses that, and that's what he wants. And honestly, us as the church, us as Christians, should be having more kids, just from a number standpoint of, look at how many kids that the world has. We need more godly Christian people.
More light.
That's right. We need more light.
More salt, more light. Yeah. I mean, I have 4. I have 4 kids.
That's awesome.
And they are, my first, I don't know how old you are. I had my first kid when I was 25.
I'm 27.
Okay. So my kids are 19, 17, 15, and 12. And I've got actually those 2 middle ones both have birthdays in April. So they're about to be 18 and 16. But you're right. We live in a very materialistic society, which is all consumerism. But your child or your children, there's so much more joy from them than a boat or than a lake house. It's a relationship, and you're pouring yourself into this little person, trying to mold them and their character and their how they think and how they see the world. And how you have zero lasting impact on anybody with a boat.
That's right.
It's just a boat. But, you have the opportunity to impact generations to come if you mold your children, and just some of the simple things. I think the what was it? The old quote, allegedly, is that Martin Luther's Sunday school teacher, when he was a boy, said to the class, "I know not what greatness sits before me." You never know, man.
That's right.
And so I'm with you that, number one, to preserve our culture as the United States of America, which may be hard to define exactly what that is because of the melting pot that it is. Our culture is a little bit of everything, so to speak. But to preserve that, we need to be having more children. And then I'm with you in the subculture of the United States of Christianity. Certainly more children are needed.
Absolutely. And it's actually astonishing how many Christian couples I know that have opted not to even have kids at all. I literally was talking to a buddy of mine, and they've been married for several years, and he was just saying that they're not even sure they want kids.
Is it from the world's just so wicked and evil?
There's some of that, but I think some of it's just, I really can't explain it. I'm not really sure what exactly is there or what kind of fear might be there. But I was just encouraging him, look, God will provide for whatever your needs are. If it's a financial reason that you don't want to have kids, God's going to provide. So don't let the devil is constantly putting fears in you and trying to scare you from doing what the Lord wants you to do. And I know this, that if God puts 2 godly people together, I believe that his plan in their life is for them to have kids, go forth and multiply and replenish the earth.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, it's my, we have free will. We do. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation in itself. It depends on how theological you want to get. But, if you don't want to have kids, we can have the conversation on whether or not that's good for our society, that's good for you as people, that's good for your family, that's good, but barring, if the Lord doesn't want you to have children, then, obviously he has ways of making that happen. The womb is closed, or just, as the man, you're not able to get her pregnant. Maybe a physical limitation on your side or her side or whatever. But, I'm all for kids, man. And they are kids difficult? Absolutely. Do they take up a lot of your time? 100%. But they're good for you because they make you grow up. They make you mature. They make you, understand life in a way that you would not understand it if you don't have them.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how my parents did it, to be honest with you. My mom homeschooled all of us.
Wow.
And it was an incredible feat. But, they told us all the time growing up how they wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Yeah.
And, it just really inspired me to know that, you have kids because the Lord wants you to, and here's what he gives you because of it. And the Lord just blessed our family incredibly. Just growing up, I mean, I have the best parents, in my opinion, in the whole world. They're incredible people. I've learned so much from them, and look to, and I'm thankful that, my wife and I are only 10 minutes down the road from them. And so our their grandkids will be, very close to them, and be able to, learn from them and just experience what incredible people they are.
Yeah. I love hearing people say that I had the best parents in the world. It's not something you hear a whole lot of. I want you to know that I had the best parents in the world.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And they live 7 minutes that way.
Love it.
So I see them a lot. My kids spend time with them. It's just the family unit is so very important.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are way out in the weeds. None of this is in the show notes, which is totally fine. Although we did plan to talk about Christianity, so this can count as the Christianity portion,
I love it.
right? But a nation is only as strong as the health of its family units.
That's right.
The home, the traditional, there's a mother, there's a father, there's children. And I mean, every home's going to have its issues just because it's filled with people, and people have issues, right. Especially if you're looking at it through the biblical lens of fallen man. But in a traditional home where there's a mother and there's a father and there are children and they're being raised in a happy environment, that's going to make for strong neighborhoods, for strong cities, and in turn, just, extrapolate it out, strong counties, strong states.
That's right. And that's why you see, we call that the nuclear family, right? And the attack on the nuclear family that we've seen over the past decade especially has been unprecedented. And I don't know if you've read the Communist Manifesto, but it is a very...
for that, man.
Every American, in my opinion, needs to read the Communist Manifesto because it really opens your eyes to what is trying to infiltrate this country. And in the Communist Manifesto, it's all about breaking down the nuclear family, breaking up the traditional roles of a mother and a father. And that's what we've seen on play right before us this past decade with the LGBTQ plus, IA, whatever, alphabet community. And that's been attacking us. Manhood has been put down. It's just so many fronts that, we have been waging war against.
Yeah.
And, thankfully, we're finally starting to see, I think, some sanity restoring back to this country. People are finally starting to realize, wait a second, this is going too far. And so, hopefully, with Trump's administration, we'll continue to see victory there. But I think the country just started to realize how ridiculous it all is.
Yeah. I was going to tell my listeners before we started that I don't normally, as they all know, this is not a political podcast, but you are a politician. So I was going to say that we were headed in a little bit of a different direction today than we normally do, which is totally fine. I'm open for whatever, but man, we're in it. And of course, I'm digging it. I like it. I love this kind of conversation. Just circling back to the Communist Manifesto there, like, maybe it's unlikely that I will read it if you want all Americans to read it. That's fine. However, the attack on the nuclear family, it's nothing new. This is Satan's plan from the beginning. He, as Jesus said, the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy, right? And especially when you consider, and again, we're talking Christianity here. I know not everybody believes this, and that's totally fine. But the relationship that a husband has with a wife, is a mystical, or is a representation of the mystical relationship that Jesus has with his church, right? Mm-hmm. Jesus is the head of the church, and the church is his bride, just like the husband is the head of a home and the wife is his bride. So for him, if he can break down that relationship between a husband and a wife, and that's where the destruction in the home comes from, right? And he can do it in any number of ways. Like he can tear a home apart if he can drive a wedge between the husband and the wife, or he can even drive a wedge between the husband and the wife if something tragic happens with the children, because they don't know how to process it. They don't know how to handle it together. They turtle away, their relationship deteriorates. I mean, but if he can break down that unit here at home, the nuclear family, he is tearing at that mystical fabric, of the representation that there is Christ in the church. And so, I mean, it's just all throughout history.
That's right.
It's not new.
No, it's not new.
There's nothing new under the sun, like Solomon said.
Amen.
Satan it's the same stuff he's always been doing. It's just
repackaged, reformed.
Yeah, it's just rewrapped,
Absolutely.
I mean, you look at Sodom and Gomorrah and their problems that they had. Now, their homosexuality wasn't their only problem. I think it was a big glaring problem. I'm not discounting it. But if you go, I think it's Isaiah the prophet talks about them, and part of their problem was that they were very wealthy and they had idleness of time and too much bread, and of course the bread is the symbol of wealth, right? And it's just interesting that part of their problem was they were just luxuriously wealthy and in idleness of time.
And what a parallel to, the time in history that we live right now. I was actually talking to my wife about this yesterday. I didn't even know this was going to come up in the podcast today, but I was saying, how fortunate we are that I have never lived in a time where I have been drafted into the military.
Right.
Or
I worry about that for my kids.
Yeah. I mean, even just our family going through something like the Great Depression. I mean, we've never lacked for food. We've never lacked for money or resources. I mean, the most prosperous time probably in the world is what we're living in right now. And I think you're right. I mean, you look at, where we have come as a country and morally becoming more degenerate. And a lot of that, I think you're right, is because we have never experienced bad times. And so we become gods ourselves because there's no need for God. I can provide everything that's in front of me. It seems like, I can create that myself, when we don't acknowledge that's really God that's given us all this. And that's where we run into so many problems.
Yeah, well, that's people. I can see what you're saying. The rise in wealth in our country is probably on par with the symmetrical image of that would be the decline in spirituality.
Correct. The dependency on God.
Yeah, if you've got enough money, you're thinking, I don't need God for anything because I can just pay for it done. But you're missing the bigger point.
That's right.
There, I mean, and one of the things the Lord told the children of Israel to remember was that it is the Lord that giveth thee the power to get wealth. So you like, and we fast forward into the New Testament, and that discussion Jesus is having with his disciples there near the end of his ministry, around the Last Supper, and he just reminded them, I am the vine, ye are the branches, and without me, you can do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the abilities that I have to start a podcast, to start a cigar business, to start a real estate, to venture into real estate and to make deals happen and all, that all comes from him. I don't do that of my own strength and power, and so and then James writes in James 1:17, right? Every good gift and every perfect gift.
Literally about to say that verse as well.
Cometh down from above,
right.
From the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. So if we make the mistake of thinking that I have enough money, what do I need God for? You're in a bad spot.
Really bad spot. And sometimes you'll see where God just sometimes needs to humble you. And I don't know what that looks like all the time, but there are times where you're on the mountain for so long and you forget God, and then he brings you down to that valley and you realize your need for him again. And that's just human nature.
Yeah.
I mean, we all do that.
Well, I've said many times, when I was pastoring, it just kind of dawned on me one day, like the mountaintop experiences, they're awesome. You go up there, it's beautiful, you see for miles. It's just, but you can't live up there.
No.
There's nothing to sustain you up there. You have to be down in the valley. In the valley is where there's water and where you can plant and grow, and you're safe because the weather on the mountaintop, no bueno. Just the winds, the frigid temperatures, just all that goes with it. You cannot live up there. You live in the valley, and that's where you can get into the parallels and all the places that God met with people on mountaintops, but they don't stay up there.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't. And the other thing I was just kind of thinking about, you talking about our rise in wealth and our lack of need for God because of that, and you talking about him humbling you. It just reminds me of that parable that the Lord Jesus tells when he says that there was a certain man who fared, like he had farms and fields that brought forth plenty.
It's all about me.
He fared sumptuously every day, and he said, like, I don't have enough room for all this harvest, for all this stuff. He said, I know what I'll do. I'll pull down my barns, I will build greater, and I will lay up much good for myself. And I will say to myself, basically, you've got much good laid up for many years, eat, drink, and be merry.
Mm.
And then the Lord came to him to that night and said, thou fool, this night is thy soul required of thee.
Yeah.
Then who shall those things be which thou hast provided?
Mm-hmm. And his problem was it was all about me. You know, what can I do? And I don't know how many times the word I was said in that parable, but I remember a pastor sermon I was listening to, was laying it out there. It's all about me. It's all about me.
Yeah. God will humble. And he tells us over and over and over throughout the New Testament to humble yourself, humble yourself. And I always have said, it's better for you to humble yourself, because if you get to the point where you make him do it, you're not going to like it. You will not like the avenue that he has to humble you. It's just better for you to do it yourself.
That's right.
And it's hard for man to do it. Pride's our number one problem, but if you do it, you'll be in better shape than him having to do it for you.
Amen.
So anyhow, man, that was fun. We're going to stay political here, but I'm not smoking today. As I mentioned, we're recording inside. I'm a little bit smoked out. I smoked Sunday at a bridal show that I was out advertising my business. Smoked Monday for a podcast. Smoked Tuesday for a cigar review. I smoked yesterday for a podcast. So I'm at my limit for the week. I really wanted to smoke Thursday. It was National Cigar Day.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And as a guy who's in the business, man, I almost felt criminal not smoking on National Cigar Day, but I'm like, man, I know I'm smoking Friday. I've had enough for the week. So today we're just recording from the living room, but there's some stuff that I want to bring up. Thankfully, I think the state of South Carolina is pretty liberty oriented. And I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but let me read these couple of things to you. This is from the Cigar Rights of America. I'm a supporting member of that organization, but this is posted on their website. Quote, in a bold and unprecedented move, Indiana, Hawaii, and Massachusetts have introduced legislation aimed at implementing a, quote, nicotine-free generation policy, raising alarms about government overreach, economic harm, and the potential for widespread unintended consequences. Indiana Senate Bill 322, Hawaii Senate Bill 429, Massachusetts House Bill 2372, and Senate Bill 1317 propose banning the sale of tobacco products to individuals born after specific dates. June 30th, 04 for Indiana, January 1st, 05 in Hawaii, January 1st, 06 in Massachusetts, effectively creating a permanent prohibition for future generations regardless of their age. End quote. That's all from the website. And I presume because those were introduced in their state chambers that such a ban would be statewide. I don't know. I mean, I'm not schooled in that stuff.
It would be.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Also from the CRA, this was in October of last year. 4 towns in Massachusetts, Peabody, Lexington, Northampton, and Medford, have explored implementing generational tobacco bans, which would prohibit the sale of tobacco products to individuals born after a certain year, regardless of their age when they reach adulthood. The state of Minnesota and the city of Minneapolis has instituted a 15-minute smoking maximum, which is wild. There's in a city of almost 500,000 people, there's one cigar lounge in that city, and that restriction applies there. You can't smoke a cigar in 15 minutes. And so, like, what? I don't understand. And a lot of this stuff started in the UK, these, like, generational smoking bans, but that's exactly what it does. It creates a moratorium on tobacco.
Yeah.
And like the FDA and some of these places are just doing their dead level best just to get rid of tobacco altogether. And I don't understand why.
You know, this topic, and I appreciate you sharing some of what we're going to talk about before we jump on here today, because, you know, tobacco is a very complex situation in some ways, because you look at what tobacco does. You know, it can cause, you know, lung cancer, different cancers, and so that's problematic. But at the same time, you know, that is someone's choice if they want to use that. And you look at a state like Massachusetts, which is very, very liberal. And I know we're not getting super political, but you know, you look at what a state like Massachusetts does, and you look at the legislature, very, very blue state. And so I find it ironic in some ways, Chris, that, you know, they are, you know, looking at a generational, you know, ban of nicotine, you know, products altogether. But at the same time, you know, they've completely legalized marijuana.
Yeah, that's stupid.
So I see a major just discrepancy there. You know, which is it? You know, we're going to ban one product, but we're going to fully legalize another. What's the game here? And so, you know, we could talk about medical marijuana, you know, fully legalizing cannabis, whatever. But I find that very interesting that Massachusetts does that. I'm pretty sure Hawaii is the same way.
Super liberal.
Exactly. And so, you know, marijuana is legal there, but now we're talking about, you know, this ban of tobacco products. So I am about personal liberty. To be honest, no, I don't agree with that. If people want to smoke, I mean, that's perfectly fine. You know, look, put the little label on there that says what it can cause, right?
Well, even recently, a federal judge blocked that, saying, like, you know, for boxes of cigars, it's probably on the cigarettes, right? Smoking can cause blah, 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 blah. But it's on the CRA website. There's a judge that said No, you cannot mandate that. You cannot tell cigar companies here that they have to put this on here. Now, that's all over, like in Europe, in other countries, they have to put that on there. But I'd have to pull up the article, But yeah, that's like now. I was talking with somebody about this recently on a different podcast. Cigars are wholly different from cigarettes. And the recent studies show that there's virtually almost zero link between cigar consumption and cancer. But I'm with you. Like, to me, whether or not tobacco causes cancer, it's not, as an adult, it's not the government's job to protect me. It's your job to protect me only insofar as that applies to foreign forces coming to our shores. You know what I mean? And then to enforce the law, fair business practices. But, personally, and you might think this is kind of crazy, but I think seatbelt laws are stupid. Do they save lives? Probably. But it's not the government's job to protect me. It's my job to protect myself. Yeah,
and we could get into a whole discussion.
Maybe that's a little libertarian.
Well, I was literally about to say that. We can get into a whole libertarian discussion because, look, I'm not a libertarian. I am very much freedom-minded, but at the same time, I also do feel like, government does, to an extent, have a responsibility to make sure that people are safe. And that's why we have laws, right? If you take libertarian views to the extreme, then there's no laws, there's no government, and it's pure anarchy. So I think the problem comes down to, how do we make sure that government doesn't get out of control? And that's where I believe in limited government. And limited government means, government for the most part is staying out of the way unless there is unless there is a real credible situation where the government needs to get involved. Again, going back to, marijuana, and I know this discussion is not on marijuana, but, I look at that and look, I look at the Sheriff's Association, all 46 sheriffs in South Carolina didn't want, medical cannabis, legalization of marijuana legal because they see the effects of marijuana on a daily basis.
Right.
I went on a ride along with the cops, and I encourage people to do that too. Your sheriff's office, your local sheriff's office will let citizens do a ride along. It is so powerful. And just one short day, how many druggies and people that we encountered on that ride along that were on marijuana, or, and there are other drugs too that they were on too. But it absolutely is a gateway drug. And so, for me, I'm completely against that. But as far as, tobacco, where that doesn't affect other people,
it doesn't mess with your mental state.
You're not going to be high, doing a smoke, unless it's got, cannabis in there. But that's nothing that the government needs to get involved with.
Yeah, I'm with you. And you would think, you guys, you didn't learn your lesson during Prohibition. So if you are going to outlaw this stuff, number one, you're not going to stop people from doing it. You're just going to create more problems. Thankfully, like I said, I think South Carolina is pretty citizen rights oriented. And I'm grateful for that. Back mid-January, I emailed every member of our state house and Senate expressing my concern over this. I got a bunch of automated responses for obvious reasons. But I did get a personal response from a few, one of which was John Kilmartin.
Jay Kilmartin.
I'm sorry, Jay. Yeah, Jay Kilmartin, who actually said he owns a cigar lounge in Columbia. And he just encouraged me that, hey, I want you to know you've got a strong ally in the House on this issue. So are there even issues surrounding tobacco in South Carolina being raised in chambers?
None that I'm aware of, Chris. I think we've got a lot more pressing issues to even look at.
I'm glad to hear that.
That is not even on our radar as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So what you find often is that I think, is when any legislative body begins considering tobacco, the main focus is on cigarettes, but all tobacco products wind up being thrown under the cigarette umbrella. And as I said a moment ago, that cigars are not anything like cigarettes, but just that, you know, people ought to be able to live their lives by their own conscience and by their own choices. I mean, that's kind of like a founding principle of our country, almost, like individual liberty, that we're a free people, and that our government is derived from the consent of the people and gets its power from the people, and that people should just not have to live under the government controlling every aspect of their life.
That's right.
You know, and just kind of circling back to maybe where some of our conversation started, I feel like our country was kind of speeding that direction where the government just had a say about everything.
You don't even have free speech anymore. You can't post something on Facebook without being censored or kicked off.
Or the government in back channels breathing down the necks of Twitter and Facebook to take this down, take that down, because it looks bad for us. Like, you shouldn't be doing that.
No.
You know, and so America with the platform of the left, they just looked at it and like, nah, we don't want that.
Yeah. That's what Nazi Germany did. They literally completely eradicated free speech. All of the media was controlled by the Third Reich, and all books were burned that had anything to do about, you know, freedom or anything that did not align with Hitler's agenda. And, you know, that's obviously an extreme, you know, situation, but that's what was happening here slowly. Everything was being gobbled up. Everything was being controlled. Thank God for Elon Musk. You know, I had my questions and my doubts about that guy when he first stepped onto the scene. But man, has he really stepped up for freedom of speech?
Yeah.
And, you know, really has inspired, you know, Mark Zuckerberg. It looks like he's kind of, you know, waking up to what's happening, and he's starting to become more vocal about the government breathing down his neck. Sure, there's a lot of questions there about Mark Zuckerberg. I'm not here defending him at all for what he's done, but it does seem like at least Trump getting back into office has kind of like put those people on notice, right? Even Jeff Bezos, I saw an article about him starting to look at, you know, the Washington Times. I think that's the Washington Post, excuse me, that he, you know, owns, and starting to look at. You know, let's start focusing on the real issues that, you know, people are dealing with. So, again,
I have questions about Zuckerberg. And some of these organizations, like, you were here when you were here on the left when the Democrats were in power, but now that America has swung back to the right, now, like, are you just swinging wherever the pendulum's swinging? Like, well, with Elon Musk, you know, he was for freedom even when the Democrats were running. Like, he bought Twitter, he changed it, he fired a lot of people, and it's like freedom, 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 whenever everybody else was doubling down on the censorship and the left being in control. But, you know, with a lot of this stuff, it's like, is your change genuine, or are you just following where the culture's taking?
Well, and that's a really good point, because even politicians do that.
Yes.
And so many people do. But one thing that actually kind of caught my eye about this. So a year and a half ago, a good friend of mine was talking to me about Mark Zuckerberg, and he said, hey, just so you know, you might not know this, but Mark Zuckerberg has started doing, it's not martial arts, but it's something very similar. And he's been hanging out with these very tough guys, very freedom-oriented guys, because most people that are in that, very freedom-minded. You don't see very many queer people doing martial arts. But and so anyway, he said he's actually starting to change some of his philosophical viewpoints on things because he's doing this. And he said, just so you know, just so you're aware, that's what's going on. And so I remember him telling me that, and then seeing what's happened with his recent, you know, and that was way before the election, way before we even were really involved in that, you know, whole process. And so that actually kind of stuck out to me. Maybe this is real. Maybe I'm wrong. And then, you know, Dana White now becoming, you know, and again, he's a
Huge
Yeah,
free speech advocate.
Yeah, but he's also a huge fighter, and and so like you see that that actually was true, as far as him hanging out with these people before, and so look, you become who you hang around with.
It's the power of influence.
Absolutely,
I mean, that's a proverb from Proverbs.
Yeah,
very clear.
He's even growing out some facial hair, which which I was actually like, wow, that's actually interesting.
I've not seen whatever it is he's sporting.
No. Look, again, I'm not coming in here to defend Mark Zuckerberg. He's really going to have to step up in a much bigger way for me to actually start really paying attention.
Yeah.
But at least we're starting to see some semblance of free speech returning back to this country.
Well, and it's going the opposite way in Europe. You seen some of the stuff they're doing, like I think it was in Germany.
In Germany, yeah.
Like, if you insult people online, you'll freaking get arrested and put in jail.
It's a crime. Yeah.
Are you serious?
And they will go in, the state police will go in, raid homes, and take away your electronic devices.
Yeah.
Until you pay your fine, or it's ridiculous. One guy was fined $8,000 for posting what they considered, the state considered, a racist meme.
Like, how do they not understand? How do they not see it? This is like you guys have been ashamed for so long of Nazi Germany, which for a time is probably maybe good and right. I don't know. But, it would be my opinion, like, okay, at this current point in world history, like, none of you had anything to do with that. You can say, was it wrong? Yeah. Just like, how you and I are continually beat over the head about slavery.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it wrong? Absolutely. I had nothing to do with that. Like, take it back several generations. Had nothing to do with that. Like, but fast forward now and go across the way to Germany, and you guys had nothing to do with Nazi Germany, but you guys are now cracking down in a very severe penalty on what people can say. Like, how do you not see that that's a bad idea?
Yeah, it's a horrible idea. And I'm just going to slip this in there. You talked about us as Caucasian males being constantly beat over the head for slavery.
Yeah.
Nobody ever talks about the fact that 10,000 free blacks owned slaves in the United States of America before the Civil War.
Well, and there were slaves in the North, too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but what I'm saying is, slavery has never been a white-black issue. It's always been a human race issue, and has existed for generations and thousands of years. But don't try to hit me over the head for slavery when, free blacks did the same thing. And no one likes to talk about that. History is being rewritten, and it's happening right now, and they don't want to admit certain things that actually were true. Did whites, by and large, own more slaves than free blacks did? Absolutely. But they still participated in the practice too.
It is a problem throughout history amongst all people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still going on today in certain places in the world.
Absolutely.
It's not, I don't know, man. Yeah, I just think people need to grow up some and just...
Agreed.
Yeah. So you do your work in the State House on behalf of the residents of Lawrence County. Obviously, we're in Easley today, which is Pickens County, so you're not representing these people. But are there things at the forefront now that you in the House that you'd like to talk about?
So I'll just quickly recap, Chris, some of the things that we've tackled in the House this legislative session. We're 6 weeks into the 2025 legislative session. So very, very fresh into the session, but we've already accomplished a lot. And, we have a supermajority in the State House of Representatives and the State Senate. It's the first time in our history, going back to before the Reconstruction period, that Republicans have held a supermajority in both the House and the Senate. So we have complete control, and we can push anything through that we want to.
Yeah. How many representatives are in the House?
So there's 124, and there's 46 state senators.
Okay.
So 124 plus 46, you got 170. And so we have really hit the ground running hard And we don't want to waste this opportunity as conservatives to really, continue moving South Carolina, more conservative. I'll be honest, South Carolina has not been as conservative as I would like to see her. States like Florida are kicking our tail.
Crush it.
Governor Ron DeSantis,
awesome.
Great guy. I actually worked for him. I have a lot of respect for Governor Ron DeSantis, and I want to see his agenda and just the conservative agenda overall. And other states are doing it too, but Governor DeSantis really led the way. South Carolina really needs to jump on it, and we have, starting this year. We should have banned DEI. Which stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. We all know that that's not really true. And so anyway, we should have banned that a while ago. We banned that this year. And so we are completely eradicating DEI from all of our governmental institutions. Any public funded colleges that have DEI will be completely defunded if we find out that they're doing that. That was huge. This week, we also passed school choice. And that was an incredible opportunity for us to really put the power, give power back to parents to decide their children's education.
That's awesome.
Taking that away from the bureaucrats, giving it back to the parents. It's not everything I want to see in a school choice bill, but it is a huge, huge step in the right direction. We've, also...
That's the hard part about being a politician, man, where, everybody to some extent is an ideologue. You have ideas. You have a way you see things. You have a core set of principles that you want to vote to implement. But you're not going to get everything you want.
No.
And you can't. The hard part is, where you don't want the there's good, better, and best. And you don't want to get rid of better just because it's not best.
Exactly. You have to know how to compromise. Compromise is a real thing. And as conservatives, sometimes we shy away from that word compromise because it sounds like you're, doing away with your conservative values. That's not at all what's going on. I believe, as conservatives, you're not going to get everything you want. But
it's just like you married, man.
Absolutely. But you know what we do? And I believe you push for as much as you possibly want, and then that gets whittled away, and then you're still left with a product that is much better than what it could be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, even with the school choice thing, we passed the school choice bill a couple of years ago, and it was good. And this year it was better. You just went from good, better, and best. I would say this bill is better. It's not the best, but it's definitely better than even what it was a couple of years ago. And so we're continuing to move the ball forward. And I like to use the football analogy. If you're sitting on your 25-yard line, you've got 75 yards to go to get that game-winning touchdown, right? You can throw 4 straight Hail Marys with all 4 downs that you have.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah, with probably a 1% chance of completion or even working, maybe even less than that. Or you can chip away at it and get that first down, a couple big chunk yardage plays. That's what we're doing as conservatives in South Carolina, knowing, look, we can throw the Hail Mary. It's not going to work. So what are we going to do instead? We're going to adapt and use a tactical approach to getting the ball down the field that's really going to work and move the ball forward in South Carolina. So we're moving forward. We've got a lot of great things coming down the pike. I'm not going to go into all that today, but we even passed. Looking at you started the show by saying, the upstate of South Carolina is becoming the destination place.
100%.
Really in the Southeast, even in the country to some extent. I mean, you look at the rankings, we're always
top 5.
In the top 5 every year as per capita, the place to move to. So how is South Carolina going to address this incredible, unprecedented growth?
Yeah.
There's an energy need there, a massive energy need. And so, just a couple weeks ago, we passed a massive energy infrastructure bill that is really going to bulk and strengthen our energy grid so that we're able to meet the demand that is coming our way. because that's huge. If you don't have energy,
they're building neighborhoods and apartment complexes like mad, and of course they have to for the influx of people that are coming. And on the flip side of the coin, you've got municipalities and cities that are worried just about uncontrolled growth and uncontrolled building, and they're trying to kind of clamp down on that, and it's just this kind of tug of war compromise. But at the state level, like you said, and maybe some at the city level, the mayors and the city councils and the county boards, like, all right, you cannot stop this. This is coming.
That's right.
Like, this is just, for whatever reason, the upstate in South Carolina has made itself very attractive for business. We've got a lot going on for us, like the city of Greenville and their downtown area. They've done great. We've got Jocassee, Kiwi, and Hartwell, all within, a 30-minute shot of each other. You can be in the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's great for outdoors people. Doodle Trail, Swamp Rabbit Trail, all of the umpteen waterfalls around here.
Not to mention, you're right between Atlanta and Charlotte.
I was just about to say that. You're 2 hours, you're in Atlanta, 2 hours in Charlotte, a few more hours you're in Nashville if you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So we are geographically positioned well. BMW's here, Michelin's here. My friend Richard Cox, who's the broker at the real estate office that I work at, he told me there's some noise being rumbled about Porsche coming and doing some stuff here. I mean, there's a lot of manufacturing that goes on here in the automotive industry, but also like tires. And there's economic opportunity. There's the just general popularity of this place. It's good. It's a good place to work. It's a good place to raise a family. So the cities and the counties around here have to look at it, I think, from the standpoint of, this is happening. So how do we we can't stop it because we're just so popular and everybody wants to come here. So this is happening. How do we handle this responsibly?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, that's probably the same thing that y'all are looking at in the House and in the Senate.
That's right. And, one of the good things with all the growth is not only has it really, helped our economic status of our state. We're very strong economically, and we want that to continue. We're also strong politically. And, one of the fears with all the growth is that going to shift the political landscape in South Carolina? And, thankfully, we haven't really seen that yet. What I've seen, for the most part, most of the people coming to South Carolina, most of them are good people that are fleeing other states like California, New York, pick any of those blue states you want to, but they're coming down from those states because they're fleeing those bad policies.
Yes.
And in the health insurance world, and I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but you would not believe how many phone calls I get from people that need, they just need to get health insurance in South Carolina, get it set up, and they're coming from California.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And so I've seen it firsthand. We're all seeing it. Our neighbors are different than they used to be. Back in the day, it was like everyone in your community you knew.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case anymore. And so I don't want to see South Carolina change too much. Some of this growth is excellent, but I do want to make sure that we are preserving the rich South Carolina heritage that we've all come to know and love.
The South's just a different place than the Northeast or even the West. I grew up in Southeast Texas. I knew my neighbors. I went to school in California for my religious education. Moved to California, and it's just a different place. I didn't know my neighbors. You just don't. That's not how it works out there. But I moved back here. I know Brian and his wife across the street. I know Ron and Sherry right here that live next door to me. My friend Bullard, his first name escapes me at the moment. But him and his wife Haley Bullard just down the street over here. Kishi Ray and her husband Danny down the street. Friend Jason down the street. So it's like you actually know your neighbors. You say, hey, you greet people. And there's so many people in this neighborhood from the north. I met talking to a guy several weeks ago in my garage who bought some cigars for me and just talking to me about trying to own a gun in New York.
I'm an absolute bear. I mean,
yeah, it's a nightmare. And he's showing me he's got like 3 different concealed weapons carry permits for like New York and New Jersey, and so he can just protect himself, And so I think you're right. There's probably being a realtor, meeting a lot of people, and then running around with my cigar business, meeting a lot of people, so many from California, so many from New York, from New Jersey, and then oddly enough, plenty moving here from like Florida, which is kind of strange. But a lot of those people that came from California and from New York and Jersey, they were conservatives and they were tired of the madness, and they came here.
Yeah. And there was another stat that came out saying that U-Haul destinations are the highest in the country in South Carolina right now, because that's where people are moving here, and we're just the destination place in the Southeast.
It's a tidal wave, man. So let's move on really quick and talk about a subject of mutual interest to the both of us. You made clear or you brought it up at the beginning of the podcast that you and your wife, or actually your wife is pregnant. I don't know why I would say you and your wife are pregnant. You're not pregnant. Your wife is pregnant. But I understand. Y'all are pregnant. Your first child coming in April?
April 19th.
April 19th is the target date. But topic of mutual interest, the two of you have chosen to have a home birth instead of going the hospital route, which is awesome. What's even more awesome is that you're using my wife as your midwife, which is how we met. Actually, this is the first time I've ever met you, but at least that's how we're connected.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what were your motivations to have your baby at home?
That's a better question for my wife, but I'll answer it the best way I can.
Yeah.
So her sister, who lives in Columbia, Tennessee, just south of Nashville, by the way, she just had her second home birth a few months ago, and my wife was there for her first home birth, and really loved just how it worked, and being in the comforts of your own home to have a baby. And she's not big into epidurals or Pitocin. I mean, look, I get people that want to do that. Absolutely, do that. But she didn't really want that. She just didn't want the whole hospital experience. And so she came to me, and she's just like, when we found out we were pregnant, she's like, I'd really like to have my baby at home. And my first reaction was like, oh no, we're not doing that. Like,
oh really?
I was like, no, I don't want anything to go wrong. I want you to be safe in a hospital where I know there's going to be doctors there to to make sure nothing happens, no complications. And she's like, but I really want to. And my sister's obviously had 2 home births, and it's safe. And Chris, I was a home birth. My mom had me at home, and and that's all well and good. But I was, I was kind of naive to the idea, and she was like, let's just talk to a midwife. Let's just get some information. Let's research this together.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm an open-minded guy. I try to be. And so she reaches out to a bunch of midwives, and everyone's booked. And we're only 8 weeks pregnant, and everyone's booked. No one is available to deliver a home birth in April. And so, we were kind of concerned, she especially was. And then she finally found Jennifer, your wife, and she was open. It was one of only 2 slots she had open for the month of April. And so we met with Jennifer, and she was incredible, and really put my mind at ease.
Yeah.
And when she said that she has done 1,400 home births and has never lost a mom or a baby, for one, that blew my mind, because I don't even think doctors have that record. I might be wrong.
I didn't even now. I knew the second part. I didn't know 1,400. That's nuts.
It is unbelievable. And then she was telling us, she was just putting icing on the cake for me. She was like, I've done births for Amish people in the middle of the woods. I was like, you already sold me. You didn't, but you further sold me by saying that. I mean, unbelievable. And so that really, solidified my enthusiasm for wanting to support my wife in this. And at the end of the day, I was like, if you want this, and I'll support your decision. I feel much better about it now.
Yeah.
And Jennifer's been great to work with. We're just really excited to see how this all unfolds.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I'm with you. If your wife, or if you happen to be a woman listening to this podcast, and you want to have your baby in the hospital, do it. Like my wife says, you are safest where you feel safest, So if you're like, man, I want an epidural, I just don't want to deal with the pain and fine, go to the hospital. If that's what you want to do, then do it. That's totally fine.
Absolutely.
Nobody's saying not to do that. Now, I looking back at my life, do I wish I had had my 4 children in my home? Absolutely. There's got to be something special about that. Your children were born in this house, and with you right there. But just on the practical side of things, like the hospitals are just rigid. You know what I mean? It's all these schedules. And by the way, the bed that you're going to put your wife in, it's not comfortable. Mm-hmm. So, you don't get to get up and move around and do but all those things you're doing at your house that your wife will appreciate, it's like your bed, your house, everything's comfortable. This is in my environment. If I want to get up if she wants to get up and get in the shower because she's achy and the contractions and this and just the hot water would feel good, she can. Mm-hmm. Just all those things. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she's obviously, again, she saw her sister do it twice now, and her sister loved it. And, she firsthand was right there helping her. And she's like, yeah, I want to do this too.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Now, I know you know a little bit about it, but with my wife and her profession being a midwife and just some of the regulations and things going on here in the state, as it pertains to midwives, there's something cooking in the chambers, right? Or correct? Some things going on legislatively.
Yeah. So Jennifer, again, she's the expert on this.
Yeah, she's not here. She should be.
Largely, midwives and birthing centers in South Carolina have faced several challenges with integration with the broader healthcare system in South Carolina for decades now. And the Perinatal Integration Act is what midwives in South Carolina have been pushing for years and years now. It passed the Senate several years ago, and then the House adjourned for the rest of the year and wasn't able to take it up. And so we're trying again to see if we can get this passed in South Carolina. But what it would basically do is it would make sure that midwives in birthing centers are recognized within the healthcare system, and it would help with transferring a mother who's having complications to a hospital and them getting the care that they need to resolve that complication. And right now there's just a lack of coordination with those birthing centers and midwives in general with those transfers. And so this bill kind of cleans up some of the issues that we're experiencing right now in the healthcare.
Yeah. We talked about that briefly the other day. She and I did. I did not know because, I know obviously there are times where she has to transfer. A mom's having a baby at home and maybe she's concerned about mom's blood pressure or maybe concerned about baby's breathing oxygen levels or whatever. Or, and by the way, it's not always a medical emergency for a reason that a mom transfers from home birth to a hospital. Like, I've just being married to her and seeing this enough now. Sometimes there's a mom that's just fatigued. It's just not happening. And she's like, I'm done. I just want to go to the hospital. And that's fine. And they do, but I did not know that a hospital could refuse to take.
It blows your mind.
Yeah. So this bill will address something.
It would address that. It would make sure that would not happen anymore. It still blows my mind that even was happening. In the state, that you could literally turn someone away who was having complications just because protocol and things weren't set up correctly by law. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Awesome. Well, look, I know it's mostly dudes probably listening to this podcast because we talk about cigars and we smoke cigars. But if your wife is pregnant, or if you're a lady listening to this podcast, because ladies smoke cigars too, a few of them do, and you're thinking about having a baby with, or you are pregnant and you want a home birth, just check out Wellborn Upstate. That's my wife, Jennifer. Obviously, Luke Rankin and his wife are utilizing her services, wellbornupstate.com, or visit her on social media on Instagram at Wellborn Upstate. I think it's Wellborn Upstate for Instagram and Facebook. And let me just take a minute and also say that if you would like to elevate your special moment with cigars, then the Cigar Box is who you want to do it with. Since you're craving premium cigars for your next function, let me bring the luxurious cigar experience to you. Whether it's a celebratory gathering, a relaxing backyard barbecue within your neighborhood, or a corporate event, the Cigar Box offers a curated selection of the finest cigars brought directly to your location in a custom-built teardrop-style cigar trailer. Showcasing 100 individually displayed cigars in a classy cedar-built rolling humidor, feast your eyes on our curated selection featuring top and boutique brands. You can get me directly at 864-207-2316 or visit mobilecigarbox.com to learn more and fill out the booking inquiry form while you're there. And at this point, I'm going to take a break because I want to refill my coffee cup.
Let's do it.
We'll be back in just a second. All right, we are back. Coffee cup, most importantly, has been refilled. And back with Luke Rankin, and we're going to get into a little bit of a personal section right here. In addition to being a South Carolina State House representative, you're also a health insurance advisor. And you mentioned that several minutes ago. Obviously, being a rep in the State House, not a full-time paying gig, so you've got to support your family in other ways. So tell me exactly what a health insurance advisor is and what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Chris. Real quick, people think that serving in the State House, you get a good paycheck. And that's just not the case at all. Now, if you serve in Congress in Washington, you're making $170,000. Yeah, you're federal. You're making $170,000 a year without benefits. I mean, before benefits. So you're doing much better. In the State House, a lot of people don't know this. Your salary is $10,400, and you are in Columbia 3 days a week, January through May, sometimes into June, depending on if session runs long. And so
it's under $1,000 a month.
It's not much. Okay. So, first of all, for me doing that politically, honestly, Chris, it's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I gladly accept that sacrifice because it is what I'm passionate about. I love doing it. So I gladly do it. But yeah, professionally, full time, you're right. I have to make up the difference, really provide a living for my family. And so I do that through being a health insurance advisor, where I am a broker. And so I work with the top rated health insurance companies in the country. I'm contracted with so many of them. And so what that does is it gives me, Chris, the ability to shop the market for my clients. And I know which companies are good to work with, which ones are not, which ones are easier to process claims with. All the issues that people have with health insurance, I am able to tailor solutions that meet their specific need. And I don't care if you're a large employer who needs help with a group plan for your 30 employees, or a very small business, a plumber who needs insurance because they're self-employed. I will help anyone with their situation.
My wife and myself, because we're both self-employed.
Correct. And so, really, I tailor more towards, the self-employed, your 1099 contractors, people that have to pay for their own health insurance. If you work for BMW, well, guess what? You're getting phenomenal health benefits. There's no need for me to help you there. I am helping the self-employed, the ones that, are trying to find coverage for themselves. And honestly, Chris, most people in your situation who are self-employed, the first place they typically go to is healthcare.gov.
Yeah.
Healthcare.gov. And so what is healthcare.gov? And I'm not going to get into all the weeds of this, but healthcare.gov, all those plans that you see on there, and you're going to see a bunch from Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, AM Better, those are all Obamacare plans. And so they're on what's called the marketplace, and you're on the marketplace trying to find health insurance coverage. What people don't realize is that that's not always the best solution for you and your family. And not to get too complicated, but with marketplace plans on healthcare.gov, the premium that you pay is determined by your household income. And so if you're self-employed and you're only bringing in $50,000 a year, you're only making $50,000 a year as a self-employed person, and you have a wife and a kid. Well, chances are, based on that income, you're going to get or receive a pretty significant tax credit. And so if the policy is worth $1,500 a month and you're getting a tax credit of $1,100 a month, you're only paying $400 a month for that health insurance plan because of your income levels being so low. And so you're getting a fantastic deal. But that is completely the opposite for someone who might be making $150,000 a year. They're probably getting zero subsidy. So they're paying full price $1,500 for that policy for their wife and kid. And I'm just using an example here. And so they are way overpaying for things that they may not need. And so what do marketplace plans mandate that every single plan has to offer? So when Obamacare went into effect, and this is back in 2010, the government required that all health insurance companies that were ACA, the Affordable Care Act compliant, had to offer maternity coverage, mental health, and also cover pre-existing conditions. And so what that did was it really put everybody into the same pool. And so you have a bunch of sick people who have, cancer, heart problems, diabetes, into a pool with healthy people too.
Yeah.
And so if
they were doing the one size fits all approach.
Exactly. And so the problem is you have these health insurance companies that are offering these plans, and it's driving up the premium of those plans because you have sick people in that pool that are submitting obviously many more claims than the healthy people. And so what I do, Chris, is I take people sometimes out of that situation where they're in a pool of unhealthy people, and we go through an underwriting process where you're actually graded on your health. And that's going to put them into a pool of healthy people, which in turn is going to result in a lower premium.
Right.
And especially if you're making pretty good money as a self-employed person, going through that underwriting process, moving into a pool of healthy people is going to significantly lower your premium, and in turn save my clients thousands of dollars. So I was actually helping a roofer in the upstate recently, and he owns a roofing company, very successful business guy. Him and his wife both make a lot of money. They're making over $300,000 a year, and they were paying $2,000 a month for, and they're both in their mid 40s, $2,000 a month for him and his wife and his two kids.
Dude.
It's like another mortgage, really. And he was on the marketplace. He was on an Obamacare plan, and he was just like, "Look, is there anything you can do for me? I'm paying this kind of money." And I asked him couple simple questions. What is your health like? Are you guys reasonably healthy? And they were. And so we lowered that premium from $2,000 a month down to $1,200 a month. Saved him nearly $10,000 a year. And he loves the insurance. It's phenomenal coverage, PPO network, and they are all set. He loves me now, and let's just say he's referring me to his other friends too. But that's what I do, Chris. We're really, I'm here to help small business owners cut down on those costs and reinvest in your business.
Yeah.
I want you to be successful. Obviously, I want to be successful too in the process, but we're all helping each other, and I love what I do.
Yeah.
And
So if somebody's listening to the podcast, whether it's an individual that's self-employed or maybe it's a guy who owns a company with, 10 employees and they need help, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so they can follow me on socials. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or they can go to my website.
Well, what's your handles?
Well, they're different for some of the different.
Okay. If they need help with health insurance,
they can go to my website, which is rankininsuranceservices.com.
RANKIN?
RANKIN, insuranceservices.com.
Okay.
There's a contact form. My number's on there, 864-991-5876, or they can email me as well. I'm very accessible, very easy to get in touch with. But yeah, they can, any of those avenues.
RankinInsuranceServices.com.
Correct.
All right. Awesome. So with what you know about the health insurance industry, and on the flip side of the coin, also a consumer, right? And you're helping consumers, and of course you yourself are a consumer. What's the disconnect between insurance companies and consumers? We have, in the current situation here in the United States, a lot is changing when it comes to the healthcare industry and Americans' thoughts towards their health and healthcare. And obviously, what we saw happen with the murder of, I don't know his name, but
the president of United Healthcare.
Yeah. And the appointment of RFK to HHS, and we'll get into that. But what's the disconnect between providers, consumers?
Yeah. First of all, healthcare is complex.
Yeah.
And sometimes, providers are talking in a jargon that, everyday people just don't understand because they're not living in that world all the time. And so me as a broker, Chris, I cut through a lot of that jargon and I just simplify it for my customers. And the other thing is, since I'm a broker and I work with all these health insurance companies, when one of my clients has an issue, they call me, they text me, they email me, whatever it is. They don't have to jump on a 1-800 number and wait on hold for 30 minutes to get a human being. I help them for them. And so my clients love it because if anything happens, they can get a response from me within just a couple minutes and their situation is resolved. That's powerful. Because
it's a big deal.
It's a huge deal, and I tell people, don't call 1-800-moron, because that's really what they are. I mean, you jump on the 1-800 number and you get someone from India or one of these Asian countries that you can barely understand.
Hello, my name is Jeff.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It is absolutely horrible. And it's not all like that. I mean, there's sometimes a really helpful person.
Some stupid automated system. You can't talk to that person.
And that too, you have to go through 6 prompts to finally get to the right place. And that takes 5 minutes just to go through the prompts. And so to cut through that for the customer and just say, look, I'll take care of it. I have mechanisms to get in touch with these companies that customers do not have.
Right.
It's much more efficient. It's much quicker, but can there be improvement from the provider to consumer communication? Absolutely. And in some ways it's getting a little bit better, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah. Well, I think there's probably a lot of frustrated Americans out there who have health issues. They pay their premiums, which are probably high. They pay their copays. They find their insurance companies denying them treatments and procedures that they need. And I'm going to say 350 million-ish people in this country with a very large insurance sector. As you said, it's complicated. Add in federal and state governments. There's a lot of moving parts. And I think, one of the problems is that people often want simple solutions to complicated issues, and that doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do imagine we could probably use more common sense, but what do we do about all that?
Wow. Where do we even start, Chris?
Yeah, I know. That's a huge question.
That is a huge question. And I think some of the problem is people expect politicians to know everything. And the fact of the matter is, Chris, we don't. There are certain topics that, yes, I would be more of an expert on than others. But healthcare is probably the only one that I could consider myself more of an expert on. Even then, it's such a complicated issue that even I have to continue studying and learning on the issue. But when government gets involved, it's never usually a good thing. And we talked about this before. And that's why the Affordable Care Act that Barack Obama put into place that created this monster.
Right.
It's because, in part, you have a bunch of politicians up there that are trying to grasp an issue, and the only way that they feel like they can address it is by creating legislation that we all know has so many issues. It did some good things, but it also had a lot of issues, and honestly, in my opinion, opened up a Pandora's box of more problems. But it is a very complex issue, and my response to it is let the private sector deal with it.
The private sector always does things better and more efficient.
They do. Now, were there some legitimate reasons to have more conversation and really focus on it? Sure. But the private sector is always going to do a much better job than the government trying to come in and act like they know how to do everything. It really, in my opinion, caused more headaches. And the Affordable Care Act did some good things, like I said. But at the end of the day, I look at what Europe has been doing with socialized medicine for a while now. And that's where the Affordable Care Act started putting us on the path towards socialized medicine. And socialized medicine, and that's another discussion for another day, but it's not a good idea. It is never a good idea to have the government get involved and start making health decisions for people.
Well, if you just go online and just do some and not like reading online, Googling, but I'm just like, if you go into social media and you find yourself in the healthcare rabbit hole talking about like European healthcare, and just the amount of people talking about how it's so great, everybody has coverage, everybody has, nobody's denied. My older brother is a church planter in the UK. He lives south of London. He has private insurance that he can utilize. It is an epic disaster, socialized medicine.
Absolutely it is.
You have a problem, you need to have a surgery. Okay, cool. We'll get to you in like 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
It's like let's just stipulate, there is no perfect system.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
But just like we talked about in as a politician and that negotiation of what you want in a bill, there's good, better, and best.
That's right.
So there is no perfect system that is going to make everybody happy. That doesn't exist. But I'd rather have a more expensive system and I can get a procedure done in 2 or 3 weeks if I need it than a year and a half, and I'll probably die before.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions, Chris, I asked my clients. Some of these people that are on an Obamacare plan, and let's just say they have a network that's called an HMO. If you're on one of those types of plans, you're not in charge of your health decisions. If something comes up, if let's say you need some sort of surgery, that goes to some board to look at, and they can say, you don't really need that, or we're going to give you this really low tiered solution for your issue. And I say, do you want to make your own healthcare decisions, or do you want the government making that decision for you? And of course, everyone tells me, no, I want to make that decision myself. Yeah. I'm like, okay, then this is where we need to go. And that's where we show them other solutions that really put you in charge of your health decisions.
Yeah, no. So I have a friend who is very much in the know about medical. He's from New York. His father's a doctor. And been around a long time. His dad's, probably knocking on 90 or 85 or whatever. And he lives in Greenville. He just had hip replacement surgery. And like, he's talking about the issue with Greenville and South Carolina and people retiring here. And he just feels like we do not have the infrastructure of doctors that we need in this state. I mean, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think it's a legitimate talking point. There has been a massive influx. I was actually talking to someone else in the medical field this week about that. It's really funny you brought that up. And they were just saying that there is a need there, and it is starting to stress, the doctor schedules up, because there's just not enough doctors to take in this influx of people. And so, we're going to see, the medical industry adapt to that, and there's going to be more people coming here. Yeah. And just like anything, there's going to be some congestion at times, but it is all going to work itself out. I mean, doctors are going to want to start moving here too, because of the opportunity for them.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you that anytime the state starts putting its fingers in stuff, it kind of doesn't go well. However, part of making a state attractive for business, obviously that's the government's job, because you're controlling tax rates and this and that and the other, that makes a business that's located in, say, Arizona or wherever, say, you know what, if I can do this same job, if I can move my company to South Carolina, it's better for my bottom line, it's better for my employees, so on and so forth. So, I mean, this is just kind of a shooting from the hip question that we didn't talk about earlier, but how being a state representative, how do y'all work together in the House and in the Senate to say, let's make South Carolina more attractive for medical, so that we have a good infrastructure of doctors for our people and for people that are coming to retire?
Yeah, I mean, good question, Chris. Yeah, I can't say
you
that.
weren't prepared for that.
No, I mean, no, but it's a good question worth asking. I'll say that there hasn't been a whole lot of focus on that right now, at least in where we are in the House. I can't speak for what the Senate's doing.
Sure.
I will say Senator Danny Verdon, who is a good friend of mine, and he also resides in Lawrence County. He is the chairman of the Medical Affairs Committee in the Senate. And so he would definitely have more insight probably into that than I do.
Yeah.
But I will say I haven't really heard much discussion as far as, doctors and the number needing to be increased. I think it's going to sort itself out.
Sure. I mean, it's certainly something to consider, I think.
Sure.
We might, I don't know, wherever the masses go, the people, like the industries follow.
Yeah.
Just kind of naturally. So whenever there's a big influx of people to a certain place, well, then all the things that community requires kind of crop up.
And look, Bon Secours and Prisma, Anderson Medical, Spartanburg Regional, all these medical institutions here in the upstate, they realize what they need to do too. Yeah. And I think we, have to realize that they see the trends, they see what's happening, they know that they're going to have to continue expanding to meet those needs.
Yeah, that makes sense. So since we obviously haven't shied away from politics on this podcast for obvious reasons, let's just go ahead and, where are you at on the RFK appointment to HHS?
Man, what an interesting guy to lead the Health and Human Services. I don't agree with him all the time.
Sure.
But there's one thing that he's really good at, and it's this field that he's been appointed to lead the Health and Human Services department. And I think he's really started the conversation for questioning some of what we've just adopted as common practice in the medical field. Vaccines, these different ingredients that are in our food, where I'll be honest, Chris, before I met my wife, I was all about vaccines, all about whatever, all these ingredients. I was like, nah, there's no truth to that. It's just a conspiracy theory, it's just not true. And she really started opening my eyes to some of this stuff. And once COVID happened, wow. It really opened my eyes to some of what was going on as far as, we create this vaccine in just a couple months, a few short months. It goes through just a few months of testing, and then it's ready for massive distribution in this country. And my dad, who's a chemical engineer, brilliant guy. My dad is one of the smartest people I know, and he does research all the time. And he was following this whole COVID thing, and we would talk for hours about this stuff. And he was saying that, on the research that he was doing, he's like, I don't think this vaccine's safe. And he was saying it before anyone was saying it. There was a handful of people at the time that were saying it. And of course, those people that said it were being censored and, discontinued. And my dad was like, no, we're not getting that.
Yeah.
And, I was like, look, I trust my dad. And I didn't really feel great about it either, but I was like, I'm not going to get it either. And, I feel bad for people that were forced into getting this shot, because we're looking at now the consequences of what this shot did. And for the people that had 3 or 4 boosters, oh my, I mean, it's unbelievable. And I've never seen so many people, especially older folks that I know, that took the shot and debilitating symptoms started to happen. Mm-hmm. And sure, some of those may have happened anyway, but I think a lot of them were a result of them, getting this shot. And that's just one criticism I had of President Trump, was how quickly he put that out there. But RFK Jr. bringing some light to this discussion, and not just the COVID vaccine, but I mean, I even saw that we're now looking at, do babies really need these 70 different vaccines now? And I agree with you. And look, when I was a child, my parents gave us a few, but it was the ones that were, more important, like, tetanus, polio, chickenpox, some of those ones. And now, my wife and I have kind of talked about it, and people might think we're kind of crazy for this, but we're probably not going to vaccinate our kid at all. And that's just the decision that, we're coming to. But again, I think that's a parent's decision as well.
100%. If I vaccinated all my kids, but I didn't actively read about this stuff. I didn't research this stuff. I just did it because that's what you do.
That's right.
I grew up in a home. I got vaccinated. You have kids, get them vaccinated. It was just life. It's just part of it. You don't even give it a second thought. But, marrying Jennifer, my current wife, very opposite end of the spectrum, asks, a lot of inconvenient questions that, if you were more of a public figure, you would get canceled for just for asking questions. You know what I mean? And so if I could go back, I would not vaccinate my children, knowing what I know now. And I said that to my mother, who is 73 years old. I was born in 79. I'm 45. I said to my mom, I'm like, if I knew what I know now, I would not have vaccinated my children. And she said, me either.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have either. And there's just, just like you said, we're giving babies hours after they come out of the womb of their mother, pumping them full of stuff. I mean, their system hasn't even had a chance to adjust to anything, and you are throwing a full frontal assault onto this child. It makes no sense.
And another reason why we decided to do a home birth was we did not want to deal with the pressure that those doctors would put on us to have those things.
Right.
These doctors, they're getting paid, right?
Yes.
And everything is incentivized now. And I think that's why the healthcare industry is having so many issues, because everything is so incentivized where, even just getting a C-section for a birth that may not really be warranted. Well, if you cut the person up, that's a lot more money for the hospital system.
100%.
And so, I think RFK Jr. is bringing to light that as well. And just the pharmaceutical industry, going back to the vaccine conversation, why are we having all these vaccines? Well, the pharmaceutical companies are making bank on this. And, again, for things that we probably don't even need, and we're seeing all the issues as far as chronic diseases in kids and in adults, and it's only increasing. And I think when you look at the numbers, and what RFK Jr. is showing us is a lot of those numbers are skyrocketing since the vaccine era really began. Mm-hmm. And so really going back to science, and everyone's giving RFK Jr. a hard time, especially on the left, even some on the right, but it shouldn't be complicated or even controversial to say, let's look at what is science. What do the numbers tell us? What is science really telling us here? And really reevaluating some of the things that we've again accepted as the norm.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah.
I think he's going to really shed some light on some things.
I sure hope so. And people need to understand that the quote unquote the science. Like, man, you got to be careful if you're doing a study on XYZ. Well, who's paying for that study? You know what I mean? Is the government paying for that study? Is the pharmaceutical industry paying for that study? Like, there's a lot of variables, and it's hard to come by just truly unbiased, straight up science, right? Believe the science, trust the science. Well, I'm just tired of hearing that, because science is a method. It's not an end result. But what you're saying is you just want us to trust what you're saying in this thing, but that's not what science is. Science is not a result. Science is a method to determine some things.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, even just looking at all the ingredients being put in our food and stuff, my wife, again, really opened my eyes to what we're buying and stuff.
Yeah.
And we started shopping at Aldi, and I never even darkened the door of an Aldi before we got married. And, we shopped there a lot better ingredients that they put in their foods and stuff. And, some of the dyes, that are causing issues too. And one thing that was really interesting was just a few days before RFK Jr. was confirmed, the FDA said that they were going to ban one of those red dyes.
Right.
And it's like, we've never even heard of that ever even happening. And then all of a sudden, right before RFK Jr. gets appointed, we're going to ban it. Something's going on there that I think the FDA has known more about these dyes than they have told us.
Of course they have.
Yeah.
Of course they have. And especially if you look around, like the things that you see online, a lot of the European countries years ago came to the understanding that these things are detrimental to our health.
They're way ahead of us
to allow them in our food. Do you really think that the American government didn't know this?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just business as usual.
Yeah.
We've allowed it for so long, and I don't know. It's just,
usually Europe is wrong, but they were right on this one. They were right on this one.
Well, and I think it's Fast Freddy's, just kind of jumping on the train here. And doing things better, starting by maybe today, March 1st, like all of their chains nationwide, all their fries in beef tallow.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yep. Getting rid of like the seed oils for frying. It's going to be beef tallow, which is better for you. And by the way, frankly, tastes.
I was going to say, I think it does taste better.
I might just go to Fast Freddy's when this is over. We got one here and easily, and then give them a shot. But I've tried to get off of fast food, and it's been a good thing. But anyway, you stated that you worked in the banking sector for 5 years before you started your own company. Which I presume is obviously your health insurance advising company. So what did you do in the banking industry, and what was the impetus for you to move from banking into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, well, Chris, banking really is where I got my career started. In my teen years, I worked at Chick-fil-A, and then yeah, absolutely. And then when I started college, I'm kind of unique in the way, Chris, that I never actually went to a physical university. I did my entire degree, all 4 years, online. And because I did it online, I wanted to work my way through college. And so I decided to apply for a bank, and it was actually SunTrust Bank, which now merged with BB&T and became Truist. But I started out as a part-time teller, and I was working 28 hours a week, and then quickly got promoted to head teller, which was kind of unprecedented at the time. I was a very young guy, and I was the youngest head teller in the state with the company, and just was really thriving in my role there. And it worked out perfectly. I'd work 8 to 5, come home, do my homework, eat, go to bed. And that was just my life for 4 years. And it really taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about work ethic, how to manage a very busy schedule, and taught me just a lot of good principles. And really enjoyed my time at the bank. Moved up. Eventually became a senior relationship banker, and was doing home equity lines, auto loans, even money market accounts, all that good stuff. But I realized that, I'm not a work for a paycheck kind of guy. And for anyone who does that, and that works out perfect for you, that's perfectly fine. But for me, I felt like I was worth more than when I was getting paid. And, in banking, there's the salary caps, and, it's just like any other, corporate job. You're always, in my opinion, bound to this structured, pay scale. And, one of my clients came in one day, and he was in the life insurance business. And he's just like, look, if you're interested,
it's a tough business, man.
It is tough. And I actually did life before I really started going into the health side. But he's like, look,
and it was a disaster.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. It wasn't for me. But he was like, look, if you want to, not be bound by a salary cap, and you don't want to work a very rigid 8-to-5 job, get your license. Like, I'll help you and do all that. And so after prayer and a lot of consideration and research into it, and I was like, I think this is what I want to do. And so quit my job. And I was still single at the time. I didn't have anything to lose. Quit my job, got licensed, started off, and best decision I ever made. Yeah, there were some roadblocks there. Just like with any business, there's a lot of growth that happens, especially in the first year. And you really find out what you're all about when you leave everything to start a business. But thankfully, I had a really good savings set up. So I was set. I got my degree. I was ready to go.
What's your degree in?
Business administration.
Okay.
And so even just having that background, knowing how to start a business was very important. And it was tough first year, but then you start seeing the growth and development of it, and man, you learn so much starting your own business.
I just learned it the hard way. I don't have any degree in that kind of thing, but I'm like, I'm going to start this business, and I did.
Good for you.
Learned some growing, some financially painful lessons, but if you want to learn how to do something, just do it.
Absolutely. And so, being your own boss is the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
Does it come with incredible responsibility? Yes, but I would totally rather answer to myself for mistakes I've made than some boss in some office. And just not being capped by anything, no boundaries, being able to go record a podcast, during the week, is awesome.
It is awesome. Like, I'm sitting here right now, and I'm like, this is my job. This is what I do. I mean, it's fun, so it doesn't feel like work. But I asked a guy who ran his own company one day. This was back when I was living in California, and I asked him, like, what was the best and the worst thing about like being your own boss? And he goes, the best thing about being my own boss is that I don't have somebody breathing down my neck saying, you got to be in the office, and you have to do blah, 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 And he said, that's the best thing about it. And he said, the worst thing about it is that I don't have somebody breathing down my neck saying, you got to be at the office, and you have to do it.
That's right.
Know what I mean? It's like, if you're going to be your own boss, you have to be disciplined enough and motivated enough to grow your business.
And some people just can't do that. Some people just can't do that, and that's fine. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody.
No.
But for what I do politically, even you have to be an entrepreneur. Everyone in Columbia, in our capital, is either an attorney, a very successful business owner.
You can't answer to your boss's work schedule for you for the week. No. And I would say, hey, man, I got to have these 3 days off because I'm going to be in. Well, you're going to have to make a choice. You can work here, or you're going to be a politician. You can't do both.
That's right.
So I
made that decision, and knowing that I felt like the political landscape was an area I really wanted to spend a lot of time in moving forward. And so making that decision to be an entrepreneur is actually, in some ways, for one, God knowing what he had for me, but also two, me kind of planning for what I felt like was my future.
Yeah.
So,
well, you jumped in young, man. I mean, you decided at the ripe old age of 22 to jump into local politics, and you ran for county council of Lawrence County, unseated, an 18-year incumbent. and that's not a small deal to defeat somebody that's been in that seat almost 20 years. So what was the motivation to get in at that level?
So when I ran for county council, I was finishing up my senior year in college, and remember, I was working a full-time job too. And so I was maxed out. And this was in the spring of 2020, right before COVID, hit. And I can't explain it, Chris, but it was December of 2019, right before the spring of 2020. And I felt like the Lord had impressed in my heart to run for county council. And I had talked to some friends about it, got some counsel. I'll be honest, I got a lot of pushback from people. People said, you're too young. You have way too much on your plate right now. Just wait till you're like in your 30s. You're going to be successful by then. You'll have time to run for office. But there were a couple sermons that my pastor was doing at the time, and it was all about doing what the Lord wants you to do while you're single. And this is I was single at the time, and he was just really reaching out to the single people of the church that, look,
it's a great place to be, man.
It's a really good place to be. And when you're single, there's no restraints. There's nothing holding you back. And if God's telling you to do something, by all means, you need to do it, and do it by faith. And nothing is easy. There's a lot of hard things that God has called us to do. But if we step out of the boat and have that faith that God is going to take us there safely and get us to our destination, He's going to bless you, every step of the way. And so I took that step despite some friends saying it wasn't the right thing. Thankfully, my family was very supportive of it. And I am so thankful, again, that I have a family that really puts the emphasis on prayer. And they told me, like, if God wants you to do this, if you feel like God is leading you here and you've prayed about it, then we're behind you 100%. And, I had that nucleus of support in my family where, it made it easier in some ways, despite some friends saying it was the wrong thing. And so I stepped out of the boat, I ran, and to make a long story short, I was 22 at the time, very young, and in many ways politically naive. I've always been a student of government ever since I was a kid. It was actually shortly after I got saved at the age of 6 that the Lord first impressed on my heart that He wanted to use me in the political landscape. So at a very young age of 6, I already knew that this was what God wanted me to do. And so He cultivated that dream in my life ever since I was 6 and used it. And I even helped a presidential campaign when I was in my teen years, volunteered and, that really further instilled that desire to do something good for God's kingdom in the political landscape. And so, fast forward, I'm 22 running this campaign, had no political experience, really, because I'm so young. And the guy that was in that position, 18-year incumbent, vice chair of the county council, former chairman of the county council, very well-known, powerful guy in the county. The one thing that he had against him was he was very abrasive, and so some people didn't like him. And there were just some critical issues that were going on in Lawrence County at the time. Our funding for our sheriff's office was very poor. We had one of the worst, funded sheriff's offices in the upstate. I mean, it was just an awful situation. We had incredible growth at the time that was really potentially coming to Lawrence County, but we didn't have leadership in Lawrence County that was embracing that growth. Our economy was pretty bad in Lawrence County. Our population started to dip. It was a very older population. Kids were not coming back to live in Lawrence County after they graduated from college. It was a bad situation for Lawrence County. And so the same quote I get told to me so many times was, "Oh, well, this is the way we've always done things." And I was so sick of it. And I was like, "Oh, we've got to do something different."
Yeah, well, look at what it's got you.
Exactly. And so is this mindset, and no offense to the older guys, the council was almost made up of everyone on the county council was almost all of them were 70 years or older. It was a very older county council. And so I was like, we need younger guys. We need bold ideas. We need to really, tackle these issues with energy and enthusiasm. Yeah. And so I really ran a campaign on change for our future of Lawrence County. Very positive campaign. And my opponent, he got pretty ugly from his end, but I was just like, no, we're not gonna jump into that mud pit. We're just gonna keep it positive. And everyone called me the Chick-fil-A kid. And it had been like 4 or 5 years since I had last worked at Chick-fil-A, but everyone, anyway, so I was kind of nicknamed the Chick-fil-A kid. And, we shocked the local political landscape. Nobody saw it coming. I mean, even, a few days before the election, everyone still thought we had really no chance.
Yeah.
But I knew we had a chance.
Yeah.
Because my opponent only got aggressive about 2 weeks out from the election.
Yeah.
He all of a sudden, and it was funny.
No need to get aggressive.
There wasn't.
Winning, man.
And it was funny because I actually had some intel inside his campaign, and someone was just kind of feeding me information. He's like, he's not taking you seriously. He's not taking you seriously. Every week it was like, he's not taking you seriously. 2 weeks before, that guy told me, he's like, he's taking you seriously. And, by then it was too late. We had barnstormed the district. We had knocked on almost every single door. And it was the most exhausting thing I've ever done in my life. Because again, full-time college student, full-time job, and campaigning every second I had.
Yeah.
And I lost like 12 pounds. And for a skinny guy, I was like 160 pounds at the time, 6'3". And I lost like 12 pounds in the last like 2 weeks because we were just expending every ounce of energy we had into this campaign. Ended up winning 54% of the vote.
Nice.
And it was just the most incredible thing ever. And God just has moved ever since then. And it's just so reassuring that when God tells you to do something and you do it with all your heart. And that's another thing. When God tells you to do something, you don't do it half-heartedly. You got to do it with every ounce of energy that he's given you to do it. And he blessed in such a way where it was evidenced. Everyone that looked at it said, this is not normal.
Yeah.
And only God can do that. And so I give all the glory and praise to him for that. And ever since then, he's taken on this journey and every step of the way. And, I could go on my testimony for hours and hours, but, he's just looking for a few good men to say, I will. Mm-hmm. And we have so many people in our churches, in our communities today that God is telling them to do something, but they're scared to step out of their comfort zone and do it. And because of that, we're missing out on incredible blessings. And I never want to get to heaven one day and God roll back the curtain and show me, this is what I had for you if you had just done what I wanted you to do. I don't want that regret.
Yeah.
And so anyone listening to this podcast, if God's telling you to do something and you feel, the naysayers saying you can't do this, or the fears that, oftentimes get seated in your heart that, no, I can't do it. Say no to that. There's only one voice that's worth listening to, and that's God. And I'm just going to tell you, man, it's the best thing that I've ever done. And even since then, it's just been more steps of faith to do it. Even running for State House. I mean, it was an incredible, faith step.
You went from county council now to State House.
Yeah. And that whole story too, and I'll just keep this short because I know we've talked about this a lot, but even just running for State House, I'd been on county council for 4 years. Well, I was going into my 4th year. So this is last January. And the person that was in the House seat currently decided to run for Congress. And, they asked me if I'd be interested in running for that seat. And I was like, absolutely. Well, actually, back up, was not like that. I was like, I need to pray about this first.
Yeah.
And so prayed about it and was, kind of hesitant at first, but felt like the Lord wanted me to do it. And so I was like, I'll do it. And anytime there's an open seat in the State House, for whatever reason that the seat's open, there are always at least 4 or 5 people that file to run. It's crazy. It's nuts. And, the same thing was expected for this seat. There were like 4 or 5 other people talking about running for the seat. And I decided to do something maybe a little unconventional, but I picked up the phone and set up meetings with all 4 of these other opponents. And, we sat down in some cases, sometimes it's just over the phone. And we just went through the issues and we're like, look, we align 95%. And I told all of them, I was like, just let me run. Don't waste your time your time running, just let me run. And it was just incredible because God used those conversations to soften hearts and get those people out of the way. And so I did not have to, at the end of the day, I did not have to run a campaign against 4 other people.
Nice.
Once filing closed, I was the only name on the ballot, and
done.
It's incredible. And so it was done. And, that's only happened a handful of times in South Carolina state history. It's, as far as we know, I think it's only happened 4 times where an open seat has gone uncontested.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And again, that was God working it out in a way that I never could have possibly dreamed. No one ever expects to go into an open seat unchallenged. Sure. It's crazy.
This isn't just quickly. Do you have federal aspirations?
Chris, I will be honest with you. I will go wherever the Lord takes me.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I will always defer to God on what He has for me. I will say, when God called me into this at the age of 6, in my heart of hearts, I knew that it was going to be for a big purpose. And I knew even when I ran for county council that it wasn't going to end there. And I don't feel like it's going to end here. But at the same time, you have to bloom where you're planted. And you can't be constantly looking for the next step all the time. You have to be focused on what you're doing right where you are. Because if you're constantly thinking about, other aspirations, that distracts you from the mission that God's called to you right now. And when you're ready, He will make it very clear. And, so I am very focused on South Carolina right now. How can we make this state the best it can be? And, I might be here in the state house for, 6-8 years. It could be longer. I don't know. Or God might even call me out of it and have a different mission for me. I don't know.
Right.
But, I am focused on South Carolina right now and representing Lawrence County.
Well, speaking of being focused on missions, if your current mission is to buy or sell a house in the upstate of South Carolina, I'd like to help you out. People are moving here in droves, as we've talked about. But maybe you want to buy a home and grab the equity that will come with that in the next 10 years or so. Maybe you want to capitalize on the need for housing and sell your home for top dollar. As a realtor with C. Joyner and a member of Nexus Group, I'm your local expert. We offer a personalized experience, paying great attention to your needs, a service-oriented mindset, expert market analysis, and proven results. From downtown condos to spacious family homes, we will guide you every step of the way, and I want to encourage you to let our experience work for you. You can call me direct at 864-207-2316 or visit my website, Chris Strother, that's Strother, chrisstrother.cdanjoyner.com. Well, look, man, I know you got to get out of here in about 10 or 15 minutes, so we'll just run this last topic here pretty quick. A little bit of a lighter subject because it's been a heavy podcast. I've enjoyed it, though. I think it's been super fun. You want to talk about sports?
I'm a big sports guy, Chris. Not going to shy away from it. I played baseball for 12 years.
All right, you're a baseball guy. That makes me super happy.
Well, baseball, but I dabble in a bit of everything.
Yeah.
I actually play tennis regularly. It seems
Love tennis.
Yeah, tennis is great,
fun
man.
To watch, fun to play.
Yeah,
I'm a sports guy. I'm a big baseball guy. I played a lot of baseball growing up. I like tennis. I want to start. I said this year I was going to start following rugby. I don't know anything about rugby. The Carolina Anthem have played their first 2 games. I haven't been able to watch either one of those. I did watch the Four Nations face-off, the big hockey thing that just went down.
I wish the U.S. was able to pull it out. It was close. I know. I wish we were able to pull it out.
Would, yeah. It's a sore spot. But,
yeah.
That's fine. Whatever. Well, Canada, we'll throw them a bone. They can have the Four Nations face-off. So what is your sport of preference?
I'd probably say baseball.
Yeah.
So obviously close to my heart. Followed baseball my entire life. Derek Jeter was the guy that I really modeled my game after. Obviously famous New York Yankees shortstop, Hall of Famer now.
Yeah.
And so my first glove I got, my dad took me to Sports Authority. I don't even know if you remember Sports Authority. But, it used to be here off Woodruff Road. They closed down since then. Now Academy Sports is, right there. But he took me to the store, and I picked up this glove, and it had Derek Jeter's signature right in the glove, palm there. And I was like, I want to be the next Derek Jeter. And so got that glove and started playing shortstop when I was in coach's pitch, and loved it. Absolutely fell in love with the sport. And then went on to pitch and also play shortstop when I wasn't pitching. And best sport, I'll say it's the best sport in our country. There's just something so patriotic about baseball.
It's the best of all the sports. It just is. I mean, and it is America's pastime. I mean, even with the rise of football
and soccer, don't forget soccer.
Don't forget soccer. I'm not a huge, soccer guy. I'll watch it like during the World Cup because that becomes a matter of national pride, right? So I don't really watch hockey, but if we're doing Four Nations face-off and it's all about USA, I'm down.
Oh yeah,
let's rumble. Same thing with soccer. But baseball, just the American history there, the pastime, the cat and mouse that baseball is. Every pitch matters, and I hear a lot of people say, yeah, I love to go to a baseball game, but to sit and watch it on TV, I can't do it. No, I can all day.
Me too.
But give me a baseball game. Let's do it. I'm ready. I love it. Just love baseball.
Yeah.
And I think some of the new rules are stupid. I don't like the pitch clock. I don't like the limited.
Yeah, I understand the reason for it.
I do.
And obviously, we're, especially, media and news channels, the sports channels, they're looking at the data, right? And what does the data tell you? And I guess that, they felt like they had to follow the data. And if people are finding, starting to lose interest in it. And I get it. We're a very ADHD society now where, we can't sit down and even read a book anymore. It's like we constantly have to be scrolling on a phone, to be entertained. I think it's kind of becoming like that with baseball, sadly, because I'm like you. I don't really like that rule either, but apparently it has helped some of the ratings. So
do you think, has it? I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked at the ratings, but my argument, and it's not mine, I just read it somewhere. I thought it was a good argument. So what? You shaved 10 to 15 minutes off of a game to try and attract people that don't like baseball anyway?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, seriously?
That's true.
Doesn't make any sense. But I was glad that they eliminated the shift because I really hated the shift. I don't like the limited number of pickoffs to first base because it interrupts rhythm.
Yeah.
I think it's a bad rule.
I agree.
I don't like the fact that in extra innings you start at second base with a runner at second. I don't like that.
Yeah.
And then they eliminate it for the playoffs? Come on,
is it not good enough to be
exactly? It either needs to be that way all season.
One thing that I am curious to see what baseball does is, are we going to eliminate umpires?
Yeah,
and I get worried about that because I understand the argument that it's technically, I guess technically it's more fair to just have it all automated, but you're taking out a massive element of
it's just the human part of the game.
Yeah, I mean it's and I remember growing up when I was playing ball. It was funny. I would actually adapt my game based off who was umpiring that day because I knew which umpires liked different parts of the strike zone.
Sure.
There was one umpire that specifically gave me a little bit more leeway on the outside corner, always. And a couple inches, but that's huge in baseball. And then another umpire liked him low, and I'd adapt my game, and my pitches were completely different, and I loved it.
Yeah,
it made it so much more fun for me. It was, and it made me a better pitcher too because you're able to hit your spots better, and it really
and if
challenged me.
That, like if you know those things as a batter, you make your adjustments.
Oh yeah,
you do. And you should. If you know that this umpire. Now, and I get what you're saying. Strikes should be strikes and balls should be balls.
Agreed.
I understand that. Angel Hernandez, it was time for you to go.
Sure.
But by and large, if you know that this umpire gives up the outside of the plate a little generously, well, maybe you should scoot up 6 inches in the batter's box.
Yeah.
Or not forward, but towards the plate. You know what I mean? Or if the ump calls him low, maybe scoot up a half a step in the batter's box.
Mhm.
You know, so it's all that cat and mouse that just makes baseball so interesting. And then if they do go ABS, that's automated ball strike system for those of you that don't know. If they do go, like, we're not fully eliminating umpires. There'll still be like first, second, and third base umpires, and we're just having automated behind the plate.
As far as I understand, I think that's how it would go. But yeah, I hope it doesn't go that way.
I hope not. You know, I really hope not. I love the human element of it, and yeah, it's frustrating when umpires blow calls. I mean, I think it's good that we do have replay now for, you know,
Sure.
Is he out or is he safe at first base, and those kinds of things. But
Yeah, so sometimes you know, technology is just kind of getting in the way, and yeah, there's some benefits there, but it's even affecting tennis now. I don't know if you saw this a few months ago, but the Wimbledon this year is going away with all line judges. Everything's going to be everything's computerized. But and I don't like that. For one, you know, there was an elegance to, you know, the line judges, and just the whole you know, setup of the Wimbledon is so regal, and you know, getting rid of that is in my opinion, a catastrophic decision. But we already had in tennis, if you didn't like the call, you could challenge it, and you know, sometimes those go your way, sometimes they don't. But it was always cool because, you know, I don't know if you watch a whole lot of tennis, but you know, when you challenge the call, the crowd gets into it, and everyone's excited to see what happens. And then it's an awesome experience, and so that's no longer. I find that sad.
Yeah, I mean, you can't challenge a computer.
Exactly.
It's just is. All right, man. I don't want to make you late for your obligation, so let's wrap this show up. I always ask my guests at the end for a few interview recommendations. Like, who do you know that I should bring on the show?
Yeah. Well, I was
Governor
talking
McMaster.
Yeah, I don't know if you would do that, but you know, we were talking before we started the podcast, and you're just kind of going through some of the names that, you know, you have interviewed, some of the ones that are coming up, and I really like how diverse, you know, your interviewees are. You know, for me, you know, if I had to give a recommendation on you know, who I would recommend, it'd probably be someone more political. So you know, a good friend of mine, Nate Loip, he's been politically active for years and years, and good Christian friend of mine, and he's done a lot for the upstate of South Carolina in the political field, and very interesting guy. Has done a lot, and he would be someone I'd recommend to sit down with you for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. So is he a representative in the House?
He's not a representative. He chaired the Greenville County Republican Party for years. Is still very politically active. I mean, he's met so many of our nation's leaders. Like, it's unbelievable. Yeah. He met some. He met the British consulate who came over here. I mean, he's been with all the presidential candidates that have ever run for office in the last 20 years. I mean, he's quite a guy.
Nice. All right, man, give it to us one last time. What's the website for your health insurance advisor?
So if you go to www.rankininsuranceservices.com, that is where you can go to get in touch with me, see what we offer. And yeah, you can either do that or call me on my cell. And it is my cell phone number. It's not a different number. So I'm very accessible, 864-991-5876. And I do mean this when I tell people you can call me on the weekends. That is not a problem, because, you know, as small business owners, we have to be accessible.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't work for a business owner to call me Monday through Friday because they're just busy. Yeah. So I will meet with people on a Saturday if they need to. And so,
it's like being a realtor.
Absolutely. So I'm flexible.
Yeah. And do you have like an Instagram account or social media account for your role as House Representative if people want to come?
Yeah, so you can just look me up as Luke Rankin on any of those platforms. So my handle on Twitter is the Luke Rankin, and there's a reason why I have that. If you already didn't know, there's a state senator in South Carolina with my same name. His name is Luke Rankin. He's from Horry County down near Myrtle Beach. And having the same name has gotten a little bit complicated.
Sure.
And so now we have a Luke Rankin in the house, which is me. He's been in the Senate for years and years now. But people get us confused all the time. And I will get messages, phone calls, emails, texts intended for him when they're actually, coming to me. So
on X, you're the Luke.
The Luke Rankin. Just look for the guy with the young guy. Because the other Luke Rankin's in his late 50s. Okay. And so I'm the young guy. I'm the one with the hair.
Do you have that same account on Instagram?
I do.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. So follow the Luke Rankin on Instagram and on X.
Correct.
Awesome. All right. Look, if you are in need of my services as a realtor or with the Cigar Box, you can get me directly at 864-207-2316. Visit mobileCigarBox.com to check out more, to take a look at the trailer, or you can fill out the booking inquiry form. If you need assistance with real estate, you can send an email to cstrother@cdanjoiner.com. If you'd like to be on the show, know someone I should interview, shoot me an email to sundayafternoonsmokes@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram at SundayAfternoonSmokes or at Mobile Cigar Box on Instagram as well, on X at Mobile Cigar Box. You've been listening to Sunday Afternoon Smokes. I appreciate it. Share it with your friends, your family on your socials, and share it with the world, because Sunday Afternoon Smokes is pretty cool.
It's awesome. Chris, thanks for the opportunity to join your show.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate you carving out a few hours on a Saturday morning. I know you're a busy guy, and thanks for coming on. I've had a great time.
Honored. Thanks, Chris. Take care.
Man. Have a good one. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.